So last time Pete complained that I start every episode with a grunt, so this time I'm gonna call him out and ask him to do better. This is also the second attempt, so he has literally no excuse. The mic is yours, Pete. Do it, coward.
Greetings, people.
Not so easy, is it, Pete?
Go for it, man. Take it away.
You've been called out. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone, everything in between. I am the announcer of the podcast. Pete is he's a nothing. He's not an announcer. He's a fraud. He can call it out, but he can't dish it out. You know what I'm saying, guys? Anyway, now this is actually a serious episode. This is a serious episode. First of all, I wanna clear the room. Last week I said that I bought loot boxes, and I want to clarify that yes, I did probably spend like $200-300. Not all at once. It was within the span of like a few months. So, yes, it's still stupid, but I'm not that stupid. I just it's one of the things that I regret in my life. It's I look back at it and I'm like, wow, I was a stupid kid. I regret doing that because it amounted to nothing, and it got me thinking. How should people deal with like regretful thoughts, like, because when you're in your past, you can't change the past. You've done stuff, and I don't know. It's like, what can you do? I learned from my stupidity. I haven't bought a loot box since, and I haven't bought an EA game since like 2017. So
Subtweets. Damn.
What?
Subbing EA for
I'm subbing?
manipulating people.
Go
on, Alex.
What does
Just go
subbing
on.
mean?
Subtweet.
I don't know what that is. I don't use Twitter.
Use social media more.
I don't. That's the worst idea. That's the worst advice you've given.
Okay. Go on.
Don't use social media. That's going to be the biggest regret of your life, because, like, honestly,
let's respectfully disagree. Let's agree to disagree here.
Do you use Twitter? You know how much of a cesspool that is?
A lot of stuff. Doesn't matter.
The worst of the worst is there, my friend.
Yeah, it's all right.
I'm sure there are some good people though. I like seeing artists on Twitter because they're artists. They don't use it for their views or opinions. They just use it as a platform to show people, hey, look at the cool stuff I did. And I respect that, because that's
cool.
That's just like showing yourself out there versus showing your opinions out there, most of which most people don't care about. But that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
So I regret being a stupid 12-year-old that bought loot boxes. Pete, you have any regrets in your life? I know you're a perfect saint among us, all of us, and you stand on your pedestal and your high horse. You stand on your pedestal with your high horse, drinking your red wine and just looking down upon all of us.
Protein shakes.
Yeah, protein shakes. Fair enough. Called me out. How about you? You don't need to go into specifics, but I'm sure in your life there are things you regret. How do you deal with them?
That's a question. How? I could tell you how I deal with regret, and I feel like I know the way that people. Okay, I can't claim to know how people should do anything, but I feel as though the best, most productive way. Yeah, exactly. The best, most productive way to deal with regret. We'll get to that a little later.
The heck is that?
It's an airplane, bro.
It's an airplane. It's a bird. It's a plane.
It's the aliens.
It's a nuclear bomb. Okay.
It's the octopus.
It's the great filter. Watch our previous podcast. Anyway.
So, let me think. I mean, everyone does stuff they regret. It's not really something you can escape in life.
Yeah,
you do something, you think back on it, it makes you cringe because you're like, why did I have the audacity to do this thing? Or like if you hurt somebody, or if you, I don't know, maybe didn't do something to the best of your ability.
Yeah, hindsight is always 2020.
Oh, dude, hindsight sucks.
Yeah. I regret not studying sooner.
But
they don't even know that. I'm pretty sure I've already told. I'm studying for a GRE exam,
Okay.
so it's coming
You
soon.
regret not studying
Yeah, I
sooner.
regret, not doing it like 6 months in advance, but less than that. I don't want to say how less. They don't need to know that.
Well, they can know it once you get an amazing score.
Yeah, if I get a perfect score, I'm gonna brag about this and be like, I did this in this amount of time. Idiots, losers, spending 6 months of your time studying. Meanwhile, I did it in X amount of time, and still got a good score. Ha.
That's the way.
And yeah, and when I actually fail, I'm just not gonna bring it up ever again. Don't worry about it. I'll retake it 6 months later with all the
And this time you'll actually prepare for six
yes,
months.
I'll prepare for 6 months that way, and I won't mention that part because then I'd sound like a hypocrite, which I'm not.
Hmm. What do I regret doing?
We don't need to go into stories because we all have our embarrassing
No, no,
stuff.
no, no. I'm
But
not
like,
necessarily thinking of stories right
just
now.
thinking off the top of your head with stuff you regret and how you dealt with it.
Let's see. Oh, here's a big one for me. And I mean, I won't go into.
Yeah, you don't need. We don't need
Actually,
to.
actually, wait. So I guess one thing. Yeah, one thing I will say is I do regret not learning from certain mistakes sooner. You know?
As in, like, you've done the same mistake multiple times before you learned it.
Yes.
Mm.
You know, quite frankly, I find myself in a weird position right now where I feel like I could have learned from something the first time it happened. And this has to do with like relationships with people, like
Mm.
um
That's a very tough
that you
topic.
see, yeah, to be fair, like no, I'm not talking about like romantic relationships. I'm just talking about
No,
relationships in
people
general.
are weird and
People
stupid.
No, so
It's-
I feel like um me personally, I really like to make mistakes because I know I can learn from them, but sometimes when I don't learn from them and I repeat the same mistake over again, I really dislike that because, I feel like I should have learned from it the first time.
I
And
don't like making mistakes, Pete.
yeah, I know, but I'm saying I regret not learning the first time. Um it can be something as simple as following up with someone that you haven't seen in a long time. Um but you had a very close relationship with them, and then you just, things fell apart because of a number of
Stupidity.
factors. No, a number.
Just
You
life
love that
happened.
word, don't you? No, I mean, it could be any number of factors. It could be long distance between you two. It can be more responsibilities on either end. It literally could be anything.
I mean, I usually, I had a talk with a few friends about like friendships, and usually, they a lot of people like the idea of best friends, like people who like
Mm,
live together, do everything together.
totally.
And I have nothing against that. I'm saying if you can find someone like that, that's fantastic. That's wonderful. But like, not every friend needs to be like that.
Yeah.
And I would tell them the idea of like, I don't talk with my friends from college like that often. But every time we do, we like reminisce, we talk, we have fun. And I usually, so what I told them, my idea of a good friend is someone who you could spend longer periods of time away from. Like you can go on your own life journeys and do your own stuff, and then at any point you come back together and you're still friends. You have a fun time together. You don't need to be like within an inch of each other, living your life parallel just to be considered a friend.
I wholeheartedly agree with that, actually. And that's something that I just really, I mean, maybe the last couple of years started to really understand. Because I feel like I used to have that mentality that, like me and this dude, or me and this girl, whoever, like we had to be like, two peas in a pod always. And like
Yeah.
nothing would, keep us apart in some way, shape, or form. And then, as I kind of changed my, I guess, mentality of how quote unquote the world works, I realized, yeah, exactly like that, what you just said.
Yeah.
You really, you got to retain some individualism if you're going to try to be a little happy in your life or successful in any way. And that, I guess that
That's
ties in,
relative.
and I mean, the stuff we're going to talk about also ties into a little bit to our episode that we did several weeks ago on how to find happiness. But Um,
This episode 2.
well,
Oh right,
it has similar
I
themes
forgot.
in a way.
This is our 10th episode.
Yeah, by the way, guys,
Happy
episode
10th
numero
episode.
dos. Yeah, happy 10th.
Pete, can you like actually Spanish for like 3 seconds? You said dos.
Oh,
It's diez.
that
I'm
was.
not cutting that out, by the way. I'm calling you out again.
Oh, damn, I messed up. All
You're
right.
Mr. Puerto Rican here.
I messed up. I messed
It's
up
okay.
bad.
It's okay.
I
You
messed
you
up
know
bad.
Greek still, and I'm sure most of our fans don't
I
speak
hope
Greek.
so.
I hope so.
Okay, so
Um,
yeah, like I mean, the way I see it is if you're gonna try to be like literally with someone 24/7, then I feel as though you may have some needs that you're expecting that
no,
person
not
to
even.
fulfill,
I'm
right?
not even like. Yeah, I'm sure that seems a bit extreme, and yeah, maybe you have some things you need to work out. But I'm more referring to the idea of like you need to see your friends every day. You know, that kind of thing. And mainly this conversation stemmed from this one of my friends. She started freshman year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she made like 100 friends, right? She had
Mm.
like 5 different groups, you know, international students, American students, students in her class. She was just like having a ball, having friends. And then, you know, the second year she like talked to me and she's like, some of these friends kind of suck. And I'm just like, well, you know, you were so eager to make friends, maybe you didn't pay attention to like who were your friends. You were just doing it. And then the third year came and she was like, man, I hate having so many friends. I just want like 3 of them. And I'm like, what happened to all your spirit the first year? It's like, F that. And I'm just like, you know, the thing is, like, I, you know, I like friends, but I also value my alone time a lot.
Mm.
So usually when I tell people that like I'm okay with not having a lot of friends, their go-to response is, "Oh, you're just a loner or socially outcast idiot." And I'm just like, that's all true, but I still value friends. Like I still hang out with them, just not every day cuz you know, college was a nightmare for me. So, like social life just after the first year was 0%. So anytime I
I
spent
mean,
time with friends, Pete, you saw me. We don't need to describe the way I look, but you've seen me in college. I looked
I will.
I look like I was
I will
dying on the
say. I will
inside.
say very non. I didn't sign any NDAs to be fair, but
Pete,
yeah, Alex was not a happy camper. We'll just leave it at that.
um it wasn't even like misery or happy. I was just like really busy. Like to do
Yeah.
many things, socializing being one of
Yeah,
them.
that's fair.
But at the same time, I made some really good friends. Like
Yeah.
not a lot, like only maybe a select handful,
Right.
but they're really good friends.
Right.
Like I every time we talk to each other again, it's always like a joy. Whereas you know, if you have 100 friends, that's great, but like, do you talk to all 100 of them?
Right.
And I don't know anyone else. I can't speak for anyone else, but I'm willing to bet if you had 100 genuine friends, you're probably not spending. The vast majority of people probably don't spend like a lot of quality time with those friends, and
It's true.
the time you do spend is probably very superficial or shallow.
Yeah.
But
So
that's just an opinion, you know, from like a hermit man like myself.
hermit man like yourself. No, I mean, so would you say that you regret or no? Do you have like a long laundry list of people that you keep in contact with still from high school and college?
High school close to I have like 2 or 3 good friends,
Right.
and college I have like a couple friends also. So like yeah, I have friends, but not
No, I'm not. I don't care about that.
no, no,
I'm
no,
saying,
no. I have like friends, but I don't have like dozens upon dozens upon hundreds upon
Okay.
hundreds. You know?
Okay.
Like that I got along with everyone in high school and college. But as far as like hanging out, I didn't do a lot of that because I had my own very small group, so we would hang out.
Mm,
And for me personally, that's fine, you know, because I know the psychology of introvert and extrovert. How like an introvert, you know, socializing makes them tired or makes
yeah.
them it's an exhausting thing, whereas an extrovert is someone who's very energized when they're around people in social
Yep.
gatherings.
Yep.
And I am an introvert, but like I still, if anything, I'm always like the life of the party wherever I go.
Don't
It's
let your head grow to the size of
no, no,
Texas,
no,
man.
because like if the party is there, like I don't need to do anything. But if the party is like dull, I'm usually the one that like gets it started. Because if a bunch of people are just sitting around doing nothing, it's kind of weird and awkward. And that's coming from a weird and awkward guy, you know what I'm saying? So like if I'm saying that, imagine what like all the normal people are thinking in that party. So like then I'd like put on some music, like ask some people to dance and like just have some fun. Maybe crack an unfunny joke, my go-to thing.
We'll say I appreciate all your self-deprecation that you do on the show.
No, like I try, that
You
that's
try
the
hard to
No, I
self-deprecate.
don't try hard. I just try, period. Like if everyone's like not doing anything, it's like, okay, well, no one's having fun. Let's try to and
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
most of the time it worked, but not all the time. So
Okay.
sometimes I did make a fool of myself. I don't
So,
regret it because it was in good heart and I didn't do anything
mm-hmm.
like offensive or bad. I just tried to like get people involved and sometimes people don't want to party and that's totally 100% cool. I'm cool with that 100%. There are parties where like me and my friends just sit around and we're playing card games and
Mm.
that's if you can even call that a party.
It's just a get together, yeah.
Yeah, and it's fun. We're cracking jokes, we're making fun of each other. We're like going intense into the card game for no good reason. It's fun,
Yeah.
you know.
It just depends on the gathering. But
Um,
what I'm interested in is, so I guess I probably already anticipate the answer, but would you say you regret not meeting more people and having more relationships with people then?
um, I guess yeah. It's like I think the bigger regret is in college I overwhelm myself.
Mm-hmm.
And usually advice I give people, like for some reason people come to me for college advice when I was in college. I usually told them,
Not the person
yeah,
to go
I
to,
usually
guys.
told them like you should probably not talk to me about this. But every end, and I think I gave a good answer. Every time someone asked me about like how to approach college, I told them two things. I told them one, try to find yourself, try to find what you like, early on.
Mm.
If you know what you like from the beginning, that's great. But if you don't, like try to get an understanding of all the topics that are available and try to find the thing that resonates with you. Because for me, I found programming close to the last year instead of the first year. So that's not a regret. That was just life. That was just my life,
Mm.
and I'm happy with what I have. But I could have done it better. The second piece of advice that I emphasize to my dying breath: don't overwhelm yourself. Do not, if you can take classes or four classes instead of five or six, do it. Do not do more than three or four because my argument is now after like years of experience is that even if the individual class themselves you can handle with ease, once you have five or more, suddenly your time is limited. You don't have enough time to do well. You don't have the same amount. If you had one hard class, you could devote a lot of time into that one class. If you had two hard classes, now you have to kind of divide that time in half. If you have three, you divide into thirds. And by the time you get to five, like even if like just do basic math. Let's assume you're a healthy person who gets 6 hours of sleep. So that leaves 18 hours of sleep. Let's assume you spend at least 1 hour eating. So that's 7 hours. That leaves 17 hours of your day. And classes usually, if you're taking five classes, usually that'll be 3 to 6 hours of your day that you have to spend in the lecture class, which I highly recommend. Please go to the lecture class. Do not skip classes if you can. So that leaves you, so let's assume 3 to 4. So let's go with three. That leaves you with the 14 hours to do everything. So what does everything constitute? Well, let's assume you want to have a social life. Well, that takes up 2 or 3, 4 hours. So let's assume you ignore that. You don't need a social life. You want to go to the gym. That takes like an hour or 2 hours. Let's assume you don't do that either. So now you have 14 hours to study for five classes. Well, that means you have to, and assuming you are able to concentrate the whole 14 hours, it's like that leaves you with divided by five, roughly 3 hours, a little less than 3 hours for every topic. which can be exhausting. If especially if they're hard, which for me in my later years they were all hard. And there was no easy classes for economics, statistics, and computer science.
So the moral of the story is
Don't overwhelm
Alex
yourself.
definitely regrets overwhelming himself.
It's the thing is, if I
But
didn't,
I will say it's also it's like a half regret, half thing that you're glad you went through because you
because
know
I
to
know
never do
now.
it again.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
better now. I still make the mistake, but at least I know I'm making a mistake
Yeah.
now.
So it was a necessary evil, we could say.
Yeah, you can say it like that. I'm not gonna say it like that. And it just makes sense because like if you're over, and here's the thing, I know grades shouldn't matter, but like you also should try to get the best grades you can. So if you mess up in your first semesters because you overwhelm yourself, now the later semesters are going to get harder and you already started off on a bad foot. Ah, great. That's a noise. um I'll take care of that right now. But before I take care of that, the main point is if you get off on a bad foot, that means you're gonna have to overcome like the negative start with by doing very well in the harder classes, which is very hard. So overwhelming yourself, I just don't see a good reason to do it unless you're like absolutely required to do it. Like you, for example, Pete. There were several instances where you took many classes, but you did it because you like had to if you wanted to graduate.
Basically.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. For me, there was like 1 year where I intentionally did it because I'm like, school's easy and I'm
Yeah.
smart. Hashtag not really. Um, and yeah, I went through it. I survived. I didn't do horribly, but definitely, I wasn't the 4.0 superstar that I could have
Yeah.
been had I taken things a little bit slower and
Yeah.
easier. So yeah, I guess that's a regret I had. I'm going to step away from the mic for a minute. Pete, entertain the listeners. Talk about your life.
It's very possible we'll pause this.
No, we're
But I will say
We're not pausing it.
I will say, definitely one thing that like I said before that I regretted was not being able to keep certain relationships with people. And so I realize now that it's really important to try to not burn bridges with people, definitely the people that you care about, and definitely people that feel that you're important to them in some way. And I know that it might sound like super cliche and everything, but it's important. You need to try your best, because if you touched someone's life in some way, shape, or form, you have to make sure that they still know that you're there. And even if it's in a negative way, then maybe obviously that's not the best time to try to stay.
Don't worry, I'm here.
I was really going on a nice positive monologue and you just completely screwed
Oh,
it.
it's a comedic effect. Continue.
I was gonna say, if it's in a negative way, then obviously you don't want to be like back that person in your life either. But like if you feel like you did something to positively affect someone, then stay around, stick around.
Stay
Make
positive.
shut up. Stick around. Make sure that you're still there for that person or whatever. Like regretting it down the road that you didn't stick around, or I guess maybe you don't even have the clarity to recognize to regret that, and that's totally fine. You can totally be in that position. For me personally, like there were some people that I feel like definitely I might have helped them in some way, shape, or form, and there are people that helped me. And like one thing that like I said before is I regretted that I inadvertently burned those bridges, when now I know not to and how not to. And so in a way I'm the opposite of Alex. Like when I got to college, I was similar to your friend Alex, like the one that was meeting so many people. I wasn't meeting like 100 people within my first year, but I met quite a great amount. And through doing that, I think that kind of taught me to how to like maintain those relationships, because for me, I realized that maintaining those relationships is something that, it's not the easiest thing in the world, because you feel like you have to keep track of so many different, I don't know, not secrets, but things that they entrust you with, and like for some people it's exhausting, but me being more of an extrovert, as opposed to you, I enjoy it, to be fair. So um I will say that I don't regret the way I am now, like around everybody, because like I said, I know I learned from it. And so I guess like if this was me 3 years ago, I probably would be saying like, wow, I really wish I was still talking to XYZ person. But now I realize, like, people make mistakes, you move on. That's how it goes. I will say I do have a sort of framework on how to deal with things that I feel like I either should be regretting or am regretting, and maybe if you agree with this framework, or similar to how we framed achieving happiness, then maybe if you agree with it, then that's awesome. But I think for me, and cut me off whenever you'd like, Alex.
No, no, keep going.
For me, it's extremely, extremely, extremely important to understand yourself once again, but also make sure you're doing stuff that is for your own good. You know, if you are regretting something, it means that you felt like you didn't give everything you had to a certain aspect, or it's possible you did something that you feel like you shouldn't have done in the moment because you couldn't control yourself. Very possible. Like, everybody does that. I mean, like, on a regular basis, like when you're a little child, you probably like hit your own siblings or stuff. You do that stuff, but then like you look back on it, and if you're a slightly decent person, then you'll look back on it and be like, wow, I kind of regret hitting my younger brother or my older sister or younger sister, whatever.
We can only hope.
Yeah, that's wishful thinking. The way I see it, like, I definitely, whenever I hurt someone in a way, physically, emotionally, and I very much strive to not do that ever, because that hurts me. But whenever I did that or do that, I really, really regret it, and I try to make amends immediately. That's just me personally. I think Alex might be the same way, but I don't know. He might also have just a completely black soul. Like, there's nothing down there.
It's true. It's true. I sold my soul for a couple dollars because I'm a poor college student.
He needed some ramen to get him through the night.
It's true.
And some caffeine.
Yeah, I need some caffeine gum. Wait, no, that's not you. What
caffeine chocolate.
Caffeine
bro.
chocolate.
Little,
yeah.
Hershey's Kisses.
I need to get some of Pete's caffeine chocolate. Don't do drugs, kids. Caffeine is a drug. Don't let anyone tell you. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
So,
that was a touching story, Pete. I was here for all of it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's up to the individual, So a lot of people, when they're older, and I guess like if we do have an older audience member listening, then you'll know exactly what we mean. But when you are approaching your latter years, you always you're probably hit with the question, like, what is something that you regret that you never did, or something you regret never saying to someone, or whatever? And everybody will always say something that they didn't pull the trigger on something, like they didn't go a place. They didn't try to do something, like they didn't express their feelings to someone, or they didn't go to a place, or they didn't
try certain things.
Yeah, like whether it can be like any entrepreneurial goals,
or a club, or
exactly, and like
hobby.
That's the thing. Like, remember, time is, for me at least, and for anyone else that kind of shares my mentality, like, we agree, time is extremely, extremely valuable. Like, you do not want to lose time. Yeah. And so if you take for granted that time that you're losing, then you are gonna end up in a way like
filled with
said
regret.
Person filled with regret. Exactly. You don't want to do that. I mean, you want to look back, and the way I see it, like, I want to look back in 60, 70 years and be like, I did literally everything I possibly could have, and I want to be, no regrets at all. That's like I feel like a lot of people they aim for like success, monetary success and stuff like that. But I think I have like a different philosophy in a way. I want to look back and have no regrets. I want to make sure that I like used up all the gas in the tank. And even like, to be fair, like right now the tank never empties, but you know, a lot of people look at me, they're like, you're crazy. But I want to say like, down the road, I want to say to them like, well, I did everything I could, and there's literally nobody that can stop me from doing everything that I wanted to do to either help them or help myself in some way. And so if you value that time truly, then that's going to be what really gets you past that point, in my opinion, at least. What are your thoughts, Alexander?
Um. Yeah. I mean, what are we talking about?
Oh my god. Dude, this guy literally just ruins the flow twice. Twice.
You're talking
Can we go
about.
for a third?
So in life, the time is valuable, time is limited, and you should make the most of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's like superficial,
Yeah,
to be fair.
I remember what I was
And
gonna
it
say.
sounds super
No,
cliche.
I remember what I was gonna say. So I don't know about you, but we're both tennis players.
Yep.
So I've met a lot of very wealthy people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, and a lot of them aren't happy. These guys are rich. Like they live in $10 million mansions.
Yeah.
They have.
Yeah, we talked about it
Yeah,
in a
we
few
talked
episodes.
about it, but we didn't
Yeah.
talk about. I think we were talking about a different subject matter about them, but these guys, quote unquote, have succeeded. They're successful when you're judging it on monetary gain, monetary value, but they're miserable and their lives relatively suck.
Relative.
They're still rich. That problem is solved, but
Everything's relative. Thank Einstein.
but well, you would thank Tesla because
Go
you think
on.
he's better than Einstein.
Shut your face.
But that's beside the point. The point is, if you're rich, that's great. But like the thing is, usually all these guys are like in their 50s and 60s, and by that time they're too. I mean, age is but a number, but by that time they're kind of a little too tired to try anything. They're not, whether mentally or physically or both, they're not willing to like pursue any dreams or goals or anything. And what's worse is sometimes they might do stuff, but they might just neglect their children, which is I'm very against that. If I ever had a child, I would never neglect them.
Yeah.
But some parents they pay for everything for their child, but they do whatever they want. They don't spend any time with their children, which it's their decision. But that's a very negative. For me, that's a negative. I would never, if I was successful and willing to have a child, I would like, it's my child. I would want to nurture and care for them, not just like if I wanted to pursue my own life and do whatever I want, I wouldn't have a child now, would I? I would just do what I want first, and then when I'm satisfied or when I feel accomplished, then I'll have a child and I'll raise and care and love for them, but not the other way around. The second I have a child, that child is my number one mission in life. But that's beside the point. The point is, these guys spend their whole life focusing on money, and yet they have nothing really, not necessarily going for them, but nothing that gives them like joy in their life. They're not happy. They're not positive like we are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I mean that's probably due to them regretting not doing something.
I'm sure they're filled with regret that they drown out with alcohol and other poor life choices that they have the money to spend on, but I mean, it's sad, but
No, it's unfortunately true. A lot of people
not
do
all of them. Not all rich people are horrible. It's true. I'm sure when I'm rich, obviously, I'm gonna succeed and be rich. Shut up, Pete. I don't think I'll be a miserable, regretful sack of meat. I'll be a cool guy. I'll be a cool rich guy,
Oh
like
yeah,
like
totally.
Musk.
But
Cooler than Musk.
this is like the 7th episode we mentioned him or something. We gotta stop.
I mean, we're gonna keep doing it until we either get Joe Rogan or Musk on our podcast.
Okay, fair enough.
Subscribe to the podcast.
I mean, like I said, the framework. I'll just really give it like
Summarize.
a little, not even summarize, but I'll kind of give it like with relation to how you can find happiness. So like we talked about it already. I don't want to go too much into detail with that, but the way I see it is, if you're doing stuff that makes you happy, then that's great. You need to keep doing it, right? But make sure that you're doing as much as possible. So like what I like to think of it as is do literally everything. Like, because that way, if I've like covered everything in some way, then what are the odds that I'll regret not doing something? Or if that's the hard part for you, at least get up and go do something that you feel like would be cool. Because then like you're going to be kicking yourself that
You
like
didn't
in
do it.
30, 40 years that you didn't do it. Like it could be like anything from starting a podcast
It's true.
to going and losing those 20 pounds that you feel like are just dragging along in your ankles or something. I don't know.
I'm not that fat, Pete.
I'm not talking about you. Why did you take it so personally?
I mean, I have lost
No,
30
I did.
pounds.
I did look
You
at
did.
him
He
straight
did.
in
He
the
was
eyes.
staring right in my eyes when he said that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a simple message, but it's one that's really hard to understand, because you can't really do it until you do it.
Yeah, no, it's
If
true.
that it sounds simple, it sounds silly, but it's the truth. You can't really like, and I mean also, I'm not gonna sit here and say I know everything, because I'm a kid. I'm just a kid by all definitions. To be fair, I don't know anything about
This
life.
is just our opinions. Everyone listening, you are more than allowed to disagree with us or have a slightly variation. But this is just our beliefs, and maybe
And yeah, the reason we're saying this is because we want to try to
spread positivity,
yeah,
make people's lives just a little bit better, whether it's by humor or life experience that people can maybe learn from or avoid
yeah.
doing.
And I will say, like, the one thing is, like, try to learn from other people's mistakes before you make them yourself.
Yeah, well,
And so we offer our own mistakes, good and bad.
it's true. Learning the
Uh,
hard way is the most guaranteed way of learning.
it's true, but you can learn from others' mistakes. So I don't think that living a regretful life is really thrilling for anyone. You know, um, that kind of took like a sad note. But yeah,
No,
I
no,
mean,
no,
think
no.
about it.
It's like that expression, you miss every shot you don't take. No, if you don't take a swing, you'll never get a hit or
No, you
something
were
like
right with the
that.
first one. Yeah, you miss 100% of the shots you never take.
Yeah, because like if you don't try or if you don't even make an attempt, you'll never succeed. You'll never accomplish what you want. Yeah, and yeah, there's a good chance you might not succeed right away. Most people don't. I didn't. But, if at first you don't succeed, you try again. And
Totally.
if you like what you're doing or you genuinely have passion towards it, you will have that, desire and will to keep going until you are at a satisfactory level that you are content and happy with.
Totally. I mean, yeah, like I said, so many people when they're older, they say they feel like they've just regretted not being able to do stuff. Um, I wonder, you know what I wonder? I wonder if I could ask myself right now, um, maybe 5 years ago, do you regret anything? I really wonder what that person would say. I can't definitively give an answer right now because I don't know. I don't remember what I don't 100% perfectly remember my headspace when I was 15.
It's true.
But then I would also really love to compare that to,
You in the future.
yeah, my answer when I'm 80, if I live to be that long. We'll
You
see.
will. We live forever, Pete. The
That's
podcast
true.
lives forever.
That's true, man. The internet is it's a wonderful medium of just idea exchange and evil memes. But yeah, I wonder what that person would say. And then I want to hold those things side by side and see is 15-year-old Pete drastically different than 80-year-old Pete, and I hope that they are drastically different. Because if they're
What if it's like a parabola where you start off one way, you change drastically in the middle, but then you revert back to what you were?
See, that is. I'm not necessarily afraid of that, but I would be very, very
You'd laugh,
disappointed.
you'd lol.
I shut up. I would really be disappointed if something like that happens. But that's also, to be fair, like something in my control completely,
Yeah.
and so I know that I'm not gonna let that happen. You
Okay.
know, like the one thing about having these types of regrets also is that not understanding and not truly accepting that you can really control most of this stuff. Like it's totally up to you whether you want to go and do whatever it is that you want to do.
Or
It's not up
it's
to
up to
any.
you to try, you know.
Yeah,
You there's
exactly.
no guarantee like you'll succeed, like but you'll never succeed if you don't give it a shot.
Exactly. And like
And
who's to say that you will succeed? No one is.
yeah,
No one
don't
is saying
take
that.
this is probably a very subtle but extremely important thing in my opinion. Don't take failure personally. Don't
Ooh.
don't if something doesn't go your way, just don't kick yourself too hard. Don't be like angry at yourself. Like just try to learn
Yeah.
from that experience. Try to see like what went right, what went wrong, and see what you can do differently.
Totally. I think that actually, so we were talking about like with it related to personal goals, but this actually plays a lot into when you were talking about your stint in FIFA. You know, like yeah, don't take that type of thing personally. Just learn from it. You know, like you dropped two, three, $400 on like a video game that ultimately brought you nothing, and you regret that. But the good thing is you learned from it, right?
Yeah,
And so that's important too. Like you can easily do stuff that like when you regret something, it doesn't always necessarily have to be not doing something. It can also be, like we said before, doing something that was not in good taste, you know. And so when that happens, obviously it's important to recognize what you did wrong. If you don't recognize what you did wrong, whew,
it can be hard
I mean,
sometimes.
yeah, that's true. I mean,
Like
that's true. But I would say like if you got to have some clarity to make sure that you're not really like what's the word, antisocial. Like you're not trying to purposely hurt somebody.
not antisocial, just like harmful, self-harmful
Well, yeah, because antisocial or antisocial is by
against.
definition is yeah, against the social order, right? So
I thought it was just being like a super introvert.
no, that's not what it is.
That's not what antisocial means.
No. If you looked in a psychology textbook, that's not how it's defined. It's like literally against doing things against, or at least antisocial disorder, for instance, is like doing stuff that is
To make you hated.
no, it's just doing stuff against social order,
Like
like
what?
things that are not socially acceptable.
Like like peeing in the sink.
I don't.
I haven't done that, by the way. That's not a regret because I've never done it.
That sounds so sus right now, bro.
No, I've never done it. That's from Hey Arnold. It's
Hey
a
Arnold.
good cartoon.
Okay,
90s cartoon.
straying from the point. My point is, um, we're not telling you how to live your life, but if you're gonna do stuff that hurts someone, at least recognize that you hurt someone and make amends. You know, because you're gonna regret it down the line.
Well, never try to intentionally hurt someone.
Yeah, yeah, of
Revenge
course.
is not the
Well,
answer. Watch
you tell
our
me.
podcast.
You you tell me. Like if you try to if you hurt someone in some way, and you didn't try to make amends, and let's say you're not a morally depraved human being, wouldn't you feel regretful if you didn't try to do anything to fix it?
I mean, you say that, but relationships can be very complicated. Like, in this hypothetical example, was I the sole problem? Or,
Like were you the perpetrator of the act, for instance?
well, is this
Or is that what
act.
you're asking?
Yeah, is this act illegal?
No,
Okay,
dude. I'm
okay. It's
saying like just like
petty relationship stuff.
whatever. Yeah.
Um, I mean, if it's like my fault, then it is what it like. You know, sometimes people aren't compatible with one another. You know,
It's true.
and you know maybe I'm just deflecting the question, but like sometimes like the person I am and the person someone else is just don't click. They don't resonate. whether it's a friendship or a relationship or whatever. Like if we just don't get along, or our personalities clash, or it's just not a positive thing, it's like we might just not interact anymore, and that's a bridge relatively burned, but not because of malice or because of like me doing something unintentionally to hurt them. It's just because me and that person were never meant to be together as whatever, you know.
Mm. Yeah,
But
that's true.
for your question regarding like if I was the if I did something that unintentionally hurt someone, my nature usually is to try and make amends, to try and like and if the relationship is going to end, then try to end it on the best terms possible, and if it's possible to salvage, maybe try to salvage it. I wouldn't just leave it for dead.
Yeah. I mean, there is a time and a place for conflict, the way I see it. Conflict obviously is not,
Stupid.
I mean, we don't need to talk about our opinions on conflict right now, but I'm saying like like I said, there's a time and a place for it, and sometimes it may be necessary because it lets things air out, you know, but other times it's really, really not the way. And so you let that take over, and that puts you in a position that if you were, let's say you have decent manners, you're a human being and everything, like you look back on it and you're like, why did I do that, or why did we get into that scuffle, it just makes you it doesn't make you feel good. You just like one of those cringy moments in life, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think from my experience, my small bag of experience with people, one of the best things I learned is the value of communication.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's
Um,
so important, man.
Early in my life, like when I was a young teenager, making like, high school, it's a new setting, and puberty and all that stuff. You know, when I was young, when I was a young teenager and I was going through high school, I when I was talking to people, I was very like closed, and I never really wanted to like open up about anything. So like whenever I had a problem, I would just kind of suck it up or deal with it.
Yeah.
And when I started having friends and relationships, that attitude is not the best attitude, because you can completely unintentionally be a little cold or distant,
Mhm.
and that, as I learned, that can be interpreted like you are genuinely cold and distant, like you are like trying to be that way towards them on purpose, like you're trying to make them feel like, try to belittle them in some way, like some psychological malicious tactic to make them feel bad.
Right.
And that was never my intention. I might have just been in a bad mood, but I would never tell anyone I was in a bad mood, or that life was just being really stressful or really bad.
Totally.
So, had I communicated that, maybe some of those interactions probably would have been much more understandable for the afflicted parties. But because I kept it all in, they didn't know any better. Like how could they? I never told them my life was going through a harsh turn. So they would just interpret it as me being me, and they would think, "Wow, he's mean, he's cold, I don't want to be around this guy, or this guy has problems." And that could have all been resolved if I just said, "Listen, I'm going through a lot of stuff right now. I just need some time to think, or I need to like talk about it, not to be like shunt it onto them, not to be like, oh, listen, oh, woe is me, listen to me, my life sucks, not like that, but just to like clear the room and be like, listen, it's not you, my life is just it's going through some stuff, and I can go into detail if you want to hear it, but I just want you to know it's nothing personal, it's just my life being my life, you know and it can be as simple as just like mentioning that, just saying, listen, now is not a good time. At work, I'm still not going to mention the place or the people.
For fear that they're gonna expect you to tell everyone how much you love it there.
Yeah, yes, I love it there. It's the greatest place in the world for me so far. Anyway, shockingly, I had a scuffle with one of the higher ups.
Oh,
A
interesting.
difference of opinion. I
Okay.
don't remember if I mentioned this in the first podcast, but Basically, I was a programmer, and I was programming some stuff with Excel, Microsoft Excel,
Mm-hmm.
and the computer, I didn't save my stuff. I spent like 4 hours working on a project that I was given by my higher up, and I was working on it for like 4 hours, 5 hours. My superior told me that that I'm needed on the floor, that I need to do manual labor. And I said, could I please save, or could I just finish up some like touches on my programming? And my supervisor said, no, we need you right now. It's an emergency. So I didn't argue. I immediately went out there, right? And I spent like several hours, working on the manual labor, working on the floor. And once I was finished, I asked my supervisor, listen, I finished all my work. Can I please go back to my desk and work on my programming? And my supervisor, they said, they said, sure, sure. So I'm literally walking to my desk. I'm proceeding to walk out of the floor and back into the office area to like start working again. And my supervisor calls me back and says, no, we need you again. And that made me upset, because my supervisor said I was allowed to leave and go back to my actual work, but they asked me to come back. So I did, once again, not arguing a single thing. When I eventually got back to my desk, I lost all my work. And
As it would happen naturally.
I don't know if someone shut down my computer or if something happened or if it crashed. I don't know what happened. I just know that the 4 hours of work I did was lost, and I tried recovering it, but I couldn't recover it. And that's, amateur mistake for a programmer, which I haven't made since. Always save your work every like 5 minutes. But and I was upset, and usually when I'm upset, like genuinely upset, not like mildly annoyed, but like actually feeling angered or upset, my face usually I make a face, and
Yeah.
not like to make a point. It just happens because I'm genuinely feeling like something bad, stupidly bad, has happened to me for no good reason.
Mm.
And my supervisor saw me like this, and I explained to them what happened, and they didn't care.
Mm.
And they said I was behaving poorly. I didn't say a single thing. I was just making a face, and they sent me home. They sent me home, even though it was like almost time for me to go home anyway. My supervisor made me go home, like
Mm-hmm.
on their command. And I was worried because when I went home, I was thinking, oh my god, am I a bad employee? And one of the first things I googled is signs like you're a bad employee. I was those signs, thank god, but that didn't help me because I got in some form of trouble with my higher up, and I was panicking. I'm like, am I gonna get fired? Is something bad gonna happen? Is my entire relationship with this person ruined? And what I did was I came in like early in the morning, like 5 in the morning, to the office, and I waited for my supervisor to come in, and I asked them politely, listen, can I have like 10 minutes to talk with you about yesterday? And my supervisor said, yeah, that's fine. And we proceeded to talk, and I cleared the room. I was just telling my supervisor, um, listen, I know that I made a face, and I apologize, and I'm really sorry for doing that, but you have to understand that I lost a lot of work on the project you assigned me, and that was a really frustrating thing, and it wasn't your fault, but because you made me go on the floor, I wasn't able to like resolve the issue, or whatever happened couldn't have been resolved, and I might have saved all that work. And naturally, I was upset, and I pointed all this out, and I said, listen, I know once again I got mad, and that is my fault, but I want you to hear my side of the story and understand, like, also the way you were speaking to me was very sharp, very, I don't know if aggressive is the word, but very, very much like I was
Condescending in a way.
condescending maybe, but like sharp, very like
A
cutting.
little too blunt.
blunt. I don't think blunt is
No.
the word. It's like very demanding. I think
Okay.
is
That's
like,
fair. I think I
but
get it.
like unfairly demanding.
Mm-hmm.
Like I asked politely, please, can I go back to my desk? I finished all the work you gave me. It's like, yes, sure. And then immediately after, it's like, no, we need you back here. Come here. And I'm just like, okay, I didn't like that,
Hmm.
but I didn't say it at the time. But I
Hmm.
said to her in a very polite way. It's like when you said it that way to me, it didn't feel very. I didn't feel very good. I think you could have maybe said it a little better. And ever since, and my supervisor agreed that my supervisor said it was a stressful period. It was like the end of the month, which is very busy for our company, and they admitted that yeah, that was probably not the most professional thing to do. And ever since then, our relationship was good. And but that only happened because I went out of my way to say, listen, can we please just have a moment to talk? And I want to emphasize, like, I spoke with my supervisor, but I did not like point fingers. I did not put blame on anyone. I was not being aggressive. Like, I wasn't playing victim. I wasn't saying you were bad, you were treating me poorly. I was just being very, very honest, not playing the blame game, not playing the victim game, not playing the culprit game, just simply saying the truth that something bad happened to me, I didn't like it, and top that on, no, put that on top of being spoken to in a very aggressive manner. Did not just that didn't sit well with me, and I made my face made it very clear that I didn't feel good about this. But after doing that, that never happened again. So
It's a good story.
this convoluted story, the message is, just speak, be
Yeah.
honest. And I don't mean like use your voice like, oh, you need to fight the power, you need to fight everything. It's like, no, just speak. How can someone improve if you don't tell them, listen, you did something I didn't that I think you could do better.
Yeah.
It's like,
Totally.
and listen, to all the people who work office jobs who have higher ups, you might have a jerk as your supervisor or your manager or whoever. That might that might be true. That the person in question, he or she, is just a horrible human being. That no, it's possible. In which case, no amount of you being the good guy or girl and saying, "Listen, I don't like the way you're behaving."
Yeah.
That could happen. But in this situation with me, that wasn't the case. All I had to do was like be honest, be polite, and just tell the truth. And my supervisor understood and learned from it, and so did I. I never made a face ever again, and my supervisor never spoke to me in such a poor manner ever again. But, that only happened because I spoke. What if I didn't speak? Then my supervisor might look at me as like an emotional wreck or
Yeah.
something.
No. Totally. Um. Yeah. So I guess to summarize what we talked about today, because honestly, like, this stuff isn't necessarily complicated to explain. The way we see it, there are two ways. If you want to branch it out from a tree, there are two roots that can lead to regret, and that's stuff that you didn't do or stuff that you did that caused harm in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, those are the two main regrets.
Do you? I mean, before I summarize, actually, is there anything else that you feel like may cause regret in someone?
So either not doing something can cause regret, or so not doing something can cause regret, or doing something that had a negative impact on your life or the life of someone else. What else could cause regret? Nothing really.
I don't believe
Yeah,
anything else.
I think
Quite
those are the
frankly.
two main things. If you didn't do something you wanted to do, or you did something that turned out that was a bad idea
Yeah,
in
exactly.
hindsight.
And so I guess based on our experiences, based on what we've been through, and hopefully we will continue to learn from, if there's something that you regret, if there's something that you think you would regret not doing, just pull the trigger. Go out and do it.
Make sure it's legal. It's true.
Oh my gosh.
It's true. I don't
No,
want to
you're right. You're
advocate
right. You're
for
right. You're right.
anything illegal,
Yeah, of course, of course. Um,
but yeah,
you definitely just go out and do it. You don't want to look back and be telling yourself, why didn't I do that thing? And then on the other side of the tree, there's just learn from your mistake. Look back on it, reflect on it, and think, what could I have done better, or what did I do that was bad, and let me make sure I never do that again, and make amends with that situation, even if,
as
if it
best you
involves
can.
if it involves someone else, or if it's just with yourself. Just make amends. You're gonna thank yourself later, because if you just dwell on it and think like, wow, I really, really shouldn't have done that, and now I feel awful and blah blah blah. Like, we just learned, like you just talked about it, Alex. Like, you could have easily had just kept it in, and then gone up in a ball of flames, like, emotionally, because of it.
I
But
was no, Pete. I'm not ever going to emotionally explode, but the perception could have been that I'm an emotional time bomb had I not
exactly,
just said, "Hey, by the way, yesterday was not a
yeah,
good day."
it's all about just figuring it out, and not figuring it out, but it's about
Resolving it as best you
resolving it
can
in some way, shape, or form.
and
You don't want to.
move on.
Yeah. Well, that's a little easier said than done.
No, 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 it's easier said than done, but like for example, you hurt someone by accident and you
Yeah.
apologize, but what if they don't accept your apology?
You're right. You're
Then
right. You're
there's
right. You're right.
nothing. You've accepted you were in the wrong. You've admitted to it, and you've done your best to console everything. But if tragedy strikes and whatever you had was lost, don't dwell on it. It's not, because it's gone. And quite frankly, if you are a genuinely good person who's genuinely trying to make amends and make everything right, and the person didn't want to accept it or didn't want to hear it, you're probably just better off not dealing with it. Because if you're able to admit to your own fault and they're not even willing to accept it, I don't want to say you're the better person because you hurt them. It's obviously case by case, but I think the best thing for you is just to move on. It's not worth, like, don't be a creep and don't be weird. No, honestly, like, if the person says they don't want anything to do with you anymore because of something you may have accidentally done, it sucks, it might hurt, but the best thing for you is to move on, to learn from what you've done, and make sure the next time you do it, you'll get it perfect the next time.
Yeah, or just don't do it at all.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
don't do bad stuff.
Yeah.
It's
So,
not worth it.
to all the people that are wondering, we're absolutely not perfect, and so we're just trying to
I'm
give
not perfect,
examples.
Pete.
We're just trying
How
to
long
give.
have you known about this?
I don't know, man. I found it somewhere hidden. Yeah. So we're just trying to give you some life examples.
This is just
help
our
you,
opinion, our 2 cents.
Yeah. But I will say, if you want to definitely make sure you're not regretting any stuff, there's only two words to describe it.
It's the 2 words we always live by, and that is to always
Stay positive.
every day.